Happy morning to all. In today's class, we are going to see the topic The Three Questions, which was written by Leo Tolstoy. Let us see the topic. Once there was a king who had three questions in his mind. He thought that he would never fail in anything he might undertake if he knew the answer for three questions. The three questions were: what was the right time for everything? Who were the right people to listen to and whom to avoid? What was the most important thing to do? These three questions had in his mind. So he invited many wise men to know the answer for his questions. And the king was very anxious to find the answer for these questions. So many wise men visited his court and they are ready to answer to his questions. To the king's first question about what was the right time to begin everything, the wise man suggested that follow the timetable, and some of the wise men suggested that the king appoint a council of wise men to tell the best time to act, and some wise men suggested that the king consult magicians to know the right time to act. To the king's second question about who were the right people to listen to and whom to avoid, the wise man suggested that the counselors, the priests, the doctors and soldiers are the most important people to whom to listen to and suggested to. To the king's third question about what was the most important thing to do, the wise man suggested that science, war and religious worship are the best thing to do. But the king was not satisfied with their answers and he wanted to approach a hermit. A hermit was living in a hut. He went there and he asked the answer to his questions. The hermit, while he went there, he was disguised. The king disguised himself as a common man because the hermit did not allow any rich people to his hermit. Only he answers to the common persons. So the king disguised himself as a normal person. When he went there, the hermit had a spade in his hand and he was digging the land with his spade. Now the king asked the answer to his questions. The hermit did not listen to his questions. One more time, the king tell his questions to the hermit. Now itself, the hermit did not listen his words. The king observed the hermit. The hermit was very tired and weak. So the king decided to get a spade from his hand and he wanted to dig a land. Then the king get a spade from the hermit and started to work on the land. While he was working on the land, the hermit was there. Now itself, the king asked the questions, and he asked to give answer to his questions to the hermit. This time also, the hermit did not listen to his words. At the time, a man came to hermit's house with a wounded. The king turned round and saw the bearded man, and he saw the wound on his stomach. There was a bleeding. So the hermit and the king tried to stop the bleeding. They took the handkerchief and stopped the bleeding of the wounded person. Now the king and the hermit helped to the wounded man, and they took the man lying on the bed, and the man started to sleep. Now the wounded man get a relief from his pain. While he woke up, he saw the king and hermit was there, and the wounded man asked the king to forgive him. The king did not understand what he is telling. Finally, the wounded man told to the king he was an enemy of the king. His brother was killed by the king in a battle. For that reason, the wounded man wanted to take revenge on this king. So he disguised himself and he hid behind the bush. But the king's soldiers found him, and they stabbed on his stomach. Now the wounded man escaped from the soldier, and to save his life to run towards the hermit's house. So now the wounded man ready to serve the king, and he swore to the king, I will serve you as a most faithful slave, and will beat his sons to the same. And he asked forgive him. Now the king was very glad to have made peace with his enemy so easily, and to have gained him for a friend. Then he promised to the wounded person to restore his property to the wounded person. Now the king approached the hermit and asked to give answers to his questions. But the hermit told him the answer had been already given to him. Now the king was stood in a confusion state. So the hermit explained that if he had not stayed back to help him with the digging on the land, he would have gone away, and the man would have attacked him. So the important time is the digging on the land. The important person is the hermit. The important business is helping the hermit. After the wounded man came to that hut, the most important time was the king was attending to him. Then the most important person was the wounded man. Then he explained the most important act to saving a wounded man's life. Now he explained that the most important time is now. The most important person you are with a particular moment. And he said most important business to do the person good. Thus he explained to his questions. Explain the answers to his questions. Okay, thank you, students.